Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we explore convenient yet effective shortcuts that will help you get ahead and move forward faster by becoming a better leader. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert, and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbach.
Maximum contact center agent performance is impossible unless your customer's involved in grading and coaching agents. So make it simple for you and customers with the award-winning external quality monitoring program from Customer Relationship Metrics. Get over the hump now by going to customersgradethecall.com/fast and getting your $7,500 rapid results package for free. Okay, Fast Leader Legion, I am excited to be able to have the guest that I have on the show today. Jon Wolske was born in Toronto, Canada, but raised in Salisbury, Maryland, to two parents that were musicians and had a strong work ethic. As a musician himself, Jon has over 20 years of experience. He plays bass, guitar, sings lead and harmony vocals, as well as writes songs. Jon is currently in the Bo Hodges Band, which you can find out more about on Facebook or Reverb Nation. Through his experiences playing music on stage, working as a corporate trainer, and doing customer service, Jon found a love for speaking and sharing the hope of being part of a movement that can change the world. Jon has spoken for organizations new and old, small and large, nonprofit to big moneymakers, because all of these organizations have cultures and purposes. As the culture evangelist for Zappos Insights, Jon is part of the Zappos family of companies headquartered in Las Vegas, Nevada. Always passionate about sharing ideas that might change the world, Jon loves to hear about small changes people have made that have ultimately had much bigger impact on the world around us. Jon currently resides in Henderson with his wife, Kelly, who also works at Zappos, working towards the goal of changing the way we humans do business. Jon Wolske, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jon. I've given our listeners a little bit about you, but can you tell us what your current passion is so that we can get to know you better?
Yeah, and I think you nailed it on the head. My passion really is getting people to think differently, and not just like from a business book standpoint, but to think differently about how you interact with people, how you communicate, how you treat people, so that you can actually get more out of them without trying so hard. But ultimately, so that at the end of the day, you go home and you feel good about yourself, and they'll feel good about everything as well.
You know, Jon, listening to you say that, I also start going back to the whole musician and musical background. And, you know, I have a good friend of mine who is a Christian artist. And he talked about how the reason that he really does music isn't for himself. I mean, he's doing it for others. And when you start also talking about impacting world, changing the way that we do business, I think both of those things have such a strong draw and connection to one another that I could definitely see how, you know, you have found such an incredible, you know, place to work for and also speak about. And I know also that you do some things that are really important for us in the show in regards to leadership quotes. You repeat them, you create them. And is there one or two that kind of stands out for you that you can share with us and tell us what they mean to you?
There's a quote by Richard Branson, and he talks about how it's really not about putting your customers first. It's actually about putting your employees first. And really what's behind that is you have these great people who drive your business. And as a leader, you should be focused on them, on their growth. And ultimately, they will make great connections to your customers. Understanding that your customers are really important to the business side of business. But without great employees or a great connection, you won't even have that business.
And, you know, I mean, obviously, you know, you guys have gotten a lot of recognition for that. And you have the blessing of being able to share all that in many different places. And that's where I had the opportunity to connect with you at a contact center event and ask you to be on the show. And thanks for accepting. But, you know, this whole issue associated with just say human-centric and human-focused. Because, you know, the internal will therefore affect the external. You guys know that. You've gotten that formula right. Being the poster child for that, you know, okay, you know, powered by service, right? Powered by people, powered by humans. All that stuff is, you know, definitely readily available from anybody and everybody who is either wanting to make those kind of changes, make an impact for the world, or is even struggling and isn't, you know, sure why. But how come more folks have not jumped on board?
Yeah, well, I think just business gets in the way. And I think that in a lot of cases, people try. They read a book, they get inspired, they go to a conference, and they go back and they try and they're on fire. But unfortunately, that takes energy and resources and time, and business gets in the way. And I really just think that's one of the biggest issues today is that it can't be something that you try. It has to be something that you do. And so one of the biggest things when I talk to big groups is I ask how many people are busy. And of course, the whole room would put their hand up. It's a badge we wear in 2015 that I'm so busy. I'm so important. You're not too busy to stop before an interaction and think about, where is this person coming from? How can I reach them in the right way? You're not too busy right after an interaction to go, did I handle that the right way? Is there something I can learn from next time? And I think that so many people are just we're so busy, and business is so important that we forget that really ultimately the human side, the person side of business is more important. And it doesn't take that much time. You have to be aware of it constantly.
And I think that brings such a great point. It's creating the right habits, correct? Because so many times I have seen the bad habits just get repeated. For example, we are pressed for time. We have a lot of things that we need to do. I have back-to-back meetings. They're going to be all day. And people sit down in the chair, and the ones who are facilitating say, okay, let's get down to it. We only have so much time. That is failure number one. That's going to just also cause a repeating pattern. So what's going to happen when you go to the next meeting?
I think I have a pretty strong theory too that if I ever get around to writing a book, there will be a breakout chapter. I really think that you actually only get 20 minutes of valuable work out of meetings. I think once you set up who's there, what we're here to talk about, in 20 minutes, you should be capturing some sort of next action and saying, hey, cool, we got this done. Because after about 20 minutes, the conversation goes elsewhere. People stop really being invested. That's just my personal opinion. But for me, so that, like, if you walked in and you said, okay, let's get down to it, here's the issue, I'd be like, thank God.
Even when you were saying that, I started thinking of a song that Billy Joel wrote and recorded talking about having a hit song and needing to cut it down to like 305, right?
Oh, yeah.
Same scenario is that, a 5-minute song may not help you make the charts because you end up starting repeating a chorus and things like that. It's like some of the songs that you hear where they say the same thing for, 4 minutes and 50 seconds. It's like, shut up already. Needless to say, you don't listen to that a lot, but I think there's a lot of correlations there.
I think so too. I'm a big fan of talented jam bands, but really ultimately after about 6 minutes of the same song, coming back around to the hook, and you're kind of like, and you go back to the next radio station. Even though you're really enjoying the music, if you're just saying the same thing over and over again, you should be done. You've said it.
That's a great point. Now, I know a little bit about your background, coming from and moving and, growing up as a musician and, even playing in the band now and, even yourself, doing some praise music and, finding your way into the role that you're doing now. I know that there was humps that you had to get over that we can all learn from. Is there one that you can share with us that kind of, can give us, some learnings and inspiration, help us get over our own humps? Can you share that with us?
Yeah, it's really about communication. So I started Zappos in the call center. I took a job because I needed health insurance. That's how I got into the Zappos family. Fell in love with what we do, and inside of a year and a half or so, had found my way into this new team. And I was actually developing a tour experience, a tour office. And then I built an experience, and I started to grow a team. And it came to a head after about 2 years. We built this great tour experience, and the team was rocking. But I was not communicating well to the team. So I'm very much like kind of a data-driven guy. So I'm very much, if you have an idea, kind of back it up a bit. Show me how this is going to impact things. If you have an idea and you feel like it might be a good idea, that doesn't really fly with me. And my team was a bunch of feel-like people, and they had some great ideas. And so they would approach me and they would say, hey, we're thinking about changing the signs, on the tour stops around the office. And of course, I'm going, okay, well, budget, and we just replaced those signs like 3 months ago. And how is this going to be better if these signs are still pretty new? And I'm going right down to the nitty gritty bottom line data. How is this affecting everything? And I could have said, what can we do to change the existing signs? I could have come up with other solutions maybe. And I just really learned that my entire team feels like people, and I'm very much a data driven, show me person. And so it kind of came to a head, and I said, you know what? I'm actually not a good leader of people if I'm not speaking their same language. And so I've got to release that need for data. And I've got to understand where they're coming from, just like they should understand too that I would like some data. It has to go in two ways. If people can't get to know you as a leader and understand the best way to approach you, you also need to work down to that level to say, hey, how do I make sure that I'm listening and getting the right stuff out of this conversation.
Listening to you tell that story, and thanks for sharing, I started thinking about that whole meeting, conversation that we were talking about a moment ago, and that if I don't take the time to have those connections, be created and, really get to know, the folks who are part of the team, whether they're, a team that I interact with on a consistent basis or cross-functional, I don't meet with them very much, is that if we don't do that, I mean, how are we actually going to have results, from that meeting? Because we're going to have disconnect. That's not what I understood. It's not what I interpreted. It's not what I want. You kept cutting me off. My opinion doesn't feel, all of those things that really cause this dysfunction that, so many of us have to deal with. And it's all started with, okay, we have a lot to do. Let's get to work.
Yeah, absolutely. So here at Zappos, one of our 10 core values is to build open and honest relationships with communication. We also have to build a positive team and family spirit. And so I think when you really do focus on that aspect, we're working together. I should know who you are. I should know more than what job you do on my team, right? Or what job you do that's going to affect my work. I should know what drives you, what you're really interested in outside of work. Do you have family, right? What are they interested in? And we really get to know people. My wife and I will go to baseball games on the weekend. We don't have any kids, right? But why not get to know our team members? We're great friends with our team members. And then when it comes down to working, we know so much more about where you're coming from. We know so much more about how can I make sure that you understand where I'm coming from. And then the team really does work better together.
No kidding. And definitely you have some of that expression capabilities through your music as well. People can get to know you through that.
Yeah.
So I know you've got a lot of things going on. You have a lot of passions. You have a lot of interests, with the work that you're doing, a lot of travel as well. But when you start looking at all the things that you have on your plate, what are some of your goals?
So my personal goals really, I think, are around growing as a speaker. I've been speaking now professionally for 5 years. And I think I've got a pretty solid product, but there's always something you could be doing better. I still use PowerPoints. And I think at this point I could probably do the presentation without the PowerPoint, but I haven't yet done that. And so when you think about just this world that I'm in, there's so much more that I can learn. Storytelling too it's not typically my first go-to because I'm a data guy. So I'll tell you something when I really should tell you how it's affected something. So I think there's a lot for me to learn and grow. I'm also kind of in charge of speaking on behalf of Zappos. So I would like to grow this offering and grow the amount of speakers that we have and get people certified in who maybe thought they could never be speakers. When I left the call center floor, I never said, man, I'm going to be a public speaker. Besides playing in a band, I really couldn't talk in front of a group of people, except that I did training jobs, which I just didn't think was the same thing. I would train 30 people for their job. And I just figured I knew how to do the job. I wanted to make sure you knew how to do the job because you need the job. And I never once considered that I was ever being prepared to be a speaker. But now I can't imagine not speaking. Knock on wood, if anything were to ever happen with my relationship here at Zappos, which I don't foresee, but I would be a speaker. I'd have to get my own product to speak about.
No, I know that it's probably as easy for you to make the transition to being a speaker with being a musician, being on stage, doing live music. All of those things that you have a comfort level that most people, when you start in speaking, have to really, that's a hump they have to get over. Oh my gosh, I'm on stage, right? But I suspect that was the easy part for you. But if you think about all of those things, and yeah, you talk about relying on PowerPoint, and that's one thing. You definitely can grow your way out of that, and sometimes you have to push your way past. But if you look at all the things and all the dynamics, what one thing that kind of stands out, say, that's my hump. What would it be? I
think my hump would be original thinking. Actually, I think up until now I've really been focused on what other people have said about it. And I think I've been speaking about it now, and that I should really be thinking about what's my angle? Like, what do I really want to get across? And I'm probably already doing it in sharing the Zappos story. But how can I make this really like the information that I want to share, and not just simply, hey, here's our story. And it's a great story, by the way. But, this is Jon Wolske speaking from the heart to see how we can change the world.
And talking about changing the world, so many of us kind of, we feel like we're kind of stuck and don't have the power or the ability to make some of the changes that we would like. to make happen. And definitely you've seen some big shifts. You've had the opportunity to go in a lot of different organizations, ones that are, what are interested in what you are doing, but maybe not necessarily, have the desire to go through the effort, because we know it takes some effort if you're talking about changing a culture. A lot of times it's easier to have a culture be the one that you want when you're starting a new business, but when you're having to go into, say, a 130-year-old organization, it's like, whoa, we got a big old barge that we now have to move. So when you start thinking about all of those things, including Zappos's current, transition to go to the whole holacracy, type of, organizational structure. If you look at all of those things, if you were to say, there's a piece of advice that I would like everybody to hear, what would it be?
Yeah, and to use the barge analogy, the barge doesn't put itself at the dock. The tugboats do. Right. And so I think if you're looking at your current situation and you just think, oh my gosh, it's so ingrained, we've been doing this for so long. Just remember that you have tugboats. You have people who are passionate, people who can start to pull or push the organization into the right direction. And to not be afraid to start with those small things. I think when I've seen a lot of companies that set together this initiative, and so they bring me in to speak because they're doing this, we're going to change our culture. And they essentially try to set a 5-year goal in the span of the next year. But it could be 5 or 10 years if you really want to make sure that shit gets in the right place. So what you need to do is open up the conversation. Your culture is there. If you're that old, 130 years old, it's been there for a while and it may have shifted. So go back into the history and say, what has made this company who we are today? Go back to the beginning because it's probably still there. Wow, cool, we should catch that. Look at some of the strategic decisions and the big things that you've had to go through, even those hard times. How did you make sure you existed beyond those hard times? That's what's made the company. So then put that in the history bucket. That's what has been present. Now let's talk. Have a conversation on every level. What makes us who we are today? And you'll probably find those things from the history bucket are still there. But things change. If you're doing things the way you did them 130 years ago, nobody would have a computer or a typewriter. So you have to change and then realize, okay, our people, our brand is driven by XYZ, whatever comes up from the conversation, and then start to put those into action. And don't be afraid to put a small version into action and say, does this work? Dip your toe in the water first. And if it does work, great. You can grow it. If it doesn't, you can pivot it, you can change it, you can kill it. But you have to put those little things into action, because I think what too many people try to do is they put big things into action. And when big things fail, they just say, oh, it doesn't work. And you just start with those small things. Let the tugboats put you into the right spot.
Thanks for sharing that. And some of the things that you were referring to are really based in positive psychology and is part of the appreciative inquiries, area of study that so many people can just, learn about. One of the things that I like mentioning is that, hey, what we need to do is ignite tradition to help it fuel our tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're exactly right. I mean, the things that allowed us to persevere and be where we are for the past 130 years are really the things that we need to be holding to, reignite, and use those to help propel us into what we need to be moving towards and be a little bit more fearless in regards to some of the decisions that we make. And so many times we lose sight of that because we focus in on, threats. We need to change. Whoa. But let's see what we need to hold on to, because sometimes those are the things that are our most cherished, that will help you shine. So thanks for sharing that. Now, for me, I'll speak personally. I don't know if I could work with my wife. How are you able to accomplish that?
Well, first off, my wife's pretty awesome. And you have to acknowledge that. But really, it started off when I started working at Zappos. And as silly as it sounds, working in a call center, customer service center, talking about shoes, and I'm not a big shoe guy, I would leave the call center at the end of my shift just on cloud 9. And then I'd go to pick my wife up from her job, and she was definitely not on cloud 9. Most days, her bad days ruined my good days. And so being a judicious husband, you don't say, hey, you're ruining my good days. You say, you know what? We should both have good days. And I think I know a way that we can both have good days. And so I said, you should work at Zappos. Actually, when I picked her up from work, I was holding an application in my right hand across the passenger seat so she couldn't get in the car without hitting this piece of paper. And I just said, really, honestly, you should do it. And she had never worked in a call center, had never worked customer service, although every job, I think, prepares you in some way for customer service with the fires that you put out in previous jobs. And so she took the jump. And 6 months after I started working here, she started working here. So we were both in the call center And then we just took different paths. And she went into the new hire training department for a couple of years. I went into insights and the tours, which then evolved into the speaking. We actually merged the organization of training and insights. And so when we then split again, insights kept Kelly because she's really good at doing what she does, and that's training people. And so she actually facilitates a lot of our on-site events. You can come in for a day or 2 days of training. And so she really is focused on doing that. And then I travel. I think that's really how we get along so well. So I travel so much.
Jon, that's awesome. And the Fast Leader Legion wishes you and Kelly the very best. Now, before we move on, let's get a quick word from our sponsor. Developing your contact center agents using surveys is what monkeys do. Elevate your ROI on VOC by building integrity and agent engagement with the survey calibration process, only available in the award-winning external quality monitoring program from Customer Relationship Metrics. Move onward and upward by going to customersgradethecall.com/fast and getting your $7,500 rapid results package for free. All right, here we go, Fast Leader listeners. It's time for the Hump Day Hoedown. Okay, Jon, the Hump Day Hoedown is the part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us a robust yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Jon Wolske, are you ready to hoe down?
Let's hoe down.
All right. So what do you think is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
Willingness to let go of myself.
What is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
Listen, listen, listen.
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
That one's tough to be concise because I'm pretty awesome.
Okay.
Humility.
All right. So what do you feel is one of your best tools that helps you lead in business or life?
Understanding situations quickly.
Now, I know you had mentioned something about not being one who likes to read, but can you think of a book that you would actually recommend for our listeners?
Start with Why by Simon Sinek.
Okay, Fast Leader listeners, you can find links to that and other bonus information from today's show by going to fastleader.net/Jon Wolske. Okay, Jon, this is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25, and you have been given the opportunity to take the knowledge and skills that you have now back with you, but you can't take everything. You can only choose one. So what skill or piece of knowledge would you take back with you, and why?
I would say that it's my power to speak and share and inspire people.
Jon, it was an honor to spend time with you today. Can you please share with Fast Leader listeners how they can connect with you?
Absolutely. You can find me on Twitter at it's BassRed, BASSRED. You can find me on LinkedIn. Of course, my goal for 2016 is to become huge on LinkedIn. So connect with me there. And you can find me on Facebook, Jon Wolske.
Jon Wolske, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump. Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.